Myself, well, as you can see, I'm not young. I'm retired, a retired school teacher for most of my working life, well, for all of my working life, really. I'm Scottish. I came from Scotland about 50 years ago. Half of my life has been spent in Scotland, half in Canada.
When did you come from Scotland?
I came from Scotland in 1967 when Canada was a flourishing place. There was a big exhibition called Expo 67. I came in 1967 and stayed.
What job you did in Canada?
I was a high school teacher in Canada as I was in Scotland. I found that the kids were the same whichever country. There was no difference. The teenagers were teenagers.
So it's kind of easy to teach kids?
Well, it's not easy well, it depends on how you put it. If you see that, I guess half my life I was locked up every day with a class of teenagers all day, then it sounds terrible. But I enjoyed it. It was very nice. I was very lucky with my students.
What age did you teach?
I taught from grade 10 to grade 13. There was a grade 13 in those days.
So what age grade?
Well, what age? Well, from about 14, 15 years old. To
aside from teaching, you did some kind of music things?
Oh yes, I carried my Scottish thing to Canada, and I was very much involved in Scottish cultural things. These were a pleasure to do, and I found a lot of talented people that could express what I wanted to express about Scotland. There was an ethnic festival in Toronto, a big ethnic festival called Caravan, and it had about 50 different pavilions from different countries, and ours was one of the best. We had quite a few awards for the standard of music, singing, dancing and so on in our pavilion.
I've heard that Japan also participated that
Oh yes,
caravan thing.
but of course Japan had a pavilion, and it was, at that time, Japan had their own cultural centre. Well, I think they still have their own cultural centre, but it was in there, and it was a very good pavilion. In fact, I'm looking at a little vase that I bought all these years ago in the Japanese pavilion, a little Japanese vase.
Okay, stop it. Also, I've heard you went to Japan.
Yes, it sort of, I got a computer, and I didn't know anything about computers, and I first learned, I had a friend who had a sort of, it wasn't a club, I suppose you'd call it a club, of being pen pals to people in different countries to help them learn English. And she asked me which country I would like, and I thought the most exotic would be Japan. And it was lovely. I had two students, I suppose you would call them, that I became very friendly with. And I went to Japan 3 times and saw wonderful parts of Japan. Reminded me of Scotland slightly.
Oh, do you think?
The mountains.
So scenery is kind of a little bit similar to Japanese, Japan.
Yes. There are places that look like Scotland,
And yeah, I've heard you also tried to learn Japanese.
Oh yes, well I took Japanese to help me, of course, to enjoy the time I was having in Japan.
Oh, okay, this is the book you studied.
Yeah, I know this book very well. For 3 years I took a weekly course in Japan, and it was most enjoyable. The nearest student in age to me was 35 years younger than me. kept me on my toes. This is a very concise book. It's got a lot of detail in it, and the Japanese language is really quite difficult to learn, but very enjoyable when you are learning it.
Do you still remember some words or expressions?
Oh, now you've caught me. Yeah. Konnichiwa. Watashi no namae wa John desu. Watashi wa Scotland jin desu. Dozo yoroshiku.